The paper that I'm going to deliver was done by one of my master's students and myself. I just want to start my own presentation as well, the time that I'm not running out. And this is what we did is or was on the effect of value-added services on transactional behavior in a bank. So we looked at the traditional banking methods and how they actually could evolve to include more services to differentiate themselves from other banks. Because why will a person go to a specific bank? Banks have to reinvent themselves and provide innovative solutions to remain competitive. And the minute that they introduce something new, the next bank will also introduce exactly the same value-added service. So what we did is we did research in one of the largest banks in South Africa. We've got only 4, or increasing to 5 now, large banks in South Africa. And we looked at 2 banking products in the youth segment. Youth, because youth seems to be your most important banking segment that you have to keep. They are the people that will stay with the bank for 20, 30, 40 years. So the 2 types of value-added services that we looked at were, first of all, looking at prerequisites that a consumer or customer performed a specific behavior, such as performing a transaction before qualifying to receive that incentive, or on the other hand, where an incentive is made available to the customer with no conditions or prerequisite behavior before the incentive was given to them. So our research focused on the value-added service as a marketing tool. In other words, introduce it to the people and tell them, this is why you have to come to X bank or Z bank, to increase our banking products usage by the targeted customers, in other words, our youth group. With this vast programs, we actually had 3 aims. The first one was to make sure that programs that disburse rewards to customers merely for establishing a relationship with a bank. Those people who we want them to open a bank account, focusing basically on our student market. The bank also called them the students with a Z. Programs that award points to customers, rewarding their transactional behavior. In South Africa, we've got quite a number of banks. If I can, South African people in the conference will recognize the U-counts and the other banks that use the rewarding system, and then also product-specific rewards. So these incentive-based programs needed to become tailored for our specific customer segments and provide a variety of choices to the customers to personalize their services and communicate this to the customers. We did some literature review, and Navaskaya in 2019 said that rewarding or enticing the customer using something that appeals to them is a widely used strategy. Jury in 2019 said the most common names that are used are loyalty programs. In other words, market and investment designs to foster behavior, loyalty, and enhance service in the form of non-core businesses. Somebody that must stay loyal to your bank. These programs are also referred to servitization, which is the bundling of products with related services. We've used Bank Z, one of our largest banks in South Africa. I'm not allowed to use the name. Providing financial services, products, and services. It was used for our research study, and we focused on product Y and students, a bank account targeting our customers under the age of 18. Now, product Y was for youngest children, or teenagers under the age of 18, starting or opening a bank account, and then also building a relationship with a bank. And the students then registered at an institution or higher learning, respectively, would be allowed to open a student's account. The rationale for choosing this was driven by the data and analytics that we actually received from the data warehouse from Bank Z. They made this available to us, and there's a lot of information that a big data, as our previous Dale referred to, that was available that we actually could use. The bank before the age of 20 brings in 3 times the average income of a customer, for example, that joins the bank after the age of 20. So this is a group of people that we really want to catch in or get into our bank. Price sensitivity was also a motivation for these specific products, as the banks did not charge any monthly fees for these products. It's totally free of charge if you are one of these 2 groups of bankers. The VAS offered by the Bank Z also include discount vouchers at popular retailers and also giving them banking products that they were provided by a third party with which Bank Z do have a contract with or a partnership agreement with. The importance of it is that the brand utilization is the advancement in technology and specifically the use of smartphones and social media, which facilitate easy and regular engagement with those people. SMSs were sent out on a regular basis or is sent out on a regular basis. Tweets, Facebook, all of these social interactions that actually takes place. In engaging, the bank ensures that the continuous flow of information does take place between the customer and the bank. The research methodology that we used quantitative research methods, in other words, data mining, collection techniques, and descriptive statistics, mainly because we had this available from the bank. The bank gave it to us and it was freely available. So we had an observation data collection method that we used with subjects receiving only 1 SMS, and our experimental group where we actually sent them an SMS at the beginning of the month, middle of the month, and at the end of the month to observe what the difference between the bank interaction was. And then we collected this data and we actually came to quite a good findings. The research was done using positivist and post-positivist paradigms associated with quantitative research methods, with the latter responding to the shortcomings of obviously a positive approach. Our sample of the research was our Bank Z's youth banking in the Gauteng province only. Additionally, accounts were selected from those who provided marketing consent upon opening the account. If they did not, we obviously could not use them. For the experiment group, the research targeted a sample of 1,500 Y accounts and 4,000 student Z accounts, and then also a group with 1,000 and 3,500 as a control group. The data was collected at the beginning, at the end, and at the end of a 4-month period to allow the full implementation of our interventions. The research detailed the treatment, that what was happening in our experimental group and how it was not happening in our control group and what the results of these two was. So our primary aim was to see if the research was to determine whether the using of VAS on the youth customers' transactional behavior did have effect, with also obviously secondary objectives. Now, our findings was quite interesting, and my time is running out so fast, I can't really keep up, but I want to show you that the intervention received by the experimental group, including in our this table, and I want to show you where we specifically looked at multivariable analysis using unsupervised cluster analysis, as the program allowed clusters without instructions from the researcher. So we did not have any influence on what happened in those during those months. Everything was absolutely as it was generated by the bank. The information generated the results from November 2018 to February 2019. And if you look at row 2, you will see the clusters comprises with row 3 indicating the number of accounts in each one of these clusters. And the sum of the number of accounts adds up to 1,083 account holders of customers in the Y account experimental group. Row 5 indicates the internet prepaid airtime transactions carried out by the customers over a 4-month period. And I want to stress that this is our experimental group. So this is the group of people where we sent out 3 SMSs, or the bank sent out 3 SMSs per month. It shows you that when we started with our VAS, with our value-added services, our transactions increased from internet payments or our internet prepaid airtime from only, is this thing working? Can you see my cursor? The internet prepaid time from only 1 to up to 11. So it's more than 1,000% increase in only 2 months with the intervention of VAS, value-added services. If I show you table 2, which is our control group, you will see that there actually was a decrease because people were not aware of what was happening in the bank. Prepaid airtime and data purchased by the customers is a prominent aspect in our youth market. They want to buy airtime. They want to be part of the internet, and they actually see this as a big advantage for the bank. Point of sales, where they actually use their bank accounts. If you look at line 6, there are our point of sales, where there was an increase of over 3,000. But we start telling them that they could use their account or their cards as a point of sale, in comparison with our experimental or our control group, where there was a decrease. The internet transfers on row 9, there you can also see that there's quite a big increase with our VAS intervention. As soon as we started to tell them about the product, there was all of a sudden a big increase in the product. This is also part of our non-teller deposits. People can actually, in row 13, cash accepted at our ATM machines. There was some increase, but people are still wary in South Africa of depositing cash at ATMs because of our crime and other situations. Row 14, the teller cash deposits actually is no longer happening because of this VAS. I want to go to the slide where our experimental, our student Z accounts, actually, and it's all in the papers, but I can't really go through everything because of my time. But I want to show you the difference between our experimental group and our control group, and how the delta percentages do differ between the two. Because if we come to our last reason and our last information, analysis of whether VAS was important or not, it shows us that the results shows us that a consistent higher than average transaction per customer for VAS users as compared to non-VAS users for the same period. So in the experiment, the experimental group has consistently shown a significant increase in the average number of transactions. Table 3 summarizes how we actually saw that the users are using more non-users in comparison with the users, where VAS intervention did have an effect on the results. So our conclusion of our study is that obviously, as the literature indicated, direct correlation between introduction, modification, and communication of VAS on the youth customers' transactional behavior. They will either use it as putting an expiry date for redemption of rewards, or any other way that you want to do it. There are also managerial implications, as well as limitations and recommendations for the future. I'm sorry that I did go over my time. Are there any questions?